Signs of the drought in the western United States are everywhere, from the dry riverbeds to the depleted reservoirs, canals, and fallow fields. And western farmers are hurting.
This is a fallow field where there's not enough water to plant. No water, so that's the rice dying.
Right now, the U.S. is in year 2 of a drought that encompasses almost the entirety of the American West. And though dry periods are part of a natural water cycle in the West, climate scientists are noticing changes that are making it easier for the region to fall into drought. This is causing farmers to go to greater lengths to access their water, which can create a ripple effect in neighboring rural communities. Water moves in the West in the same cycle as the rest of the world. First, precipitation falls, then the water seeps into the ground or becomes runoff that flows into rivers and streams. It's either sucked up by plants or humans or evaporates back into the atmosphere, starting the process all over again. But what's unique about the West is where and how the precipitation falls. Experts say it often comes in the form of a few big storms, traversing the region and falling as snow in the mountains, like in the Rockies or California Sierra Nevada. The snowpack it creates serves as a natural storage, saving water until the spring and summer when it thaws, feeding the rivers and reservoirs that serve lower-lying farms and cities.
Some of these extreme rain events can really make or break drought conditions for a given winter.
Climate scientist Samantha Stevenson says some causes of a drought can occur at 2 points in the water cycle. The first is more precipitation falling as rain instead of snow.
If you're getting the same amount of moisture added to the land surface, but more of that is ending up falling as rain, then it's going to just run off into the river very quickly and be further downstream or maybe even out of the area where you need it by the time summer comes around.
The second reason is increased evaporation from the land, rivers, and lakes, making everything very dry.
Like we've all seen this during dry summers, right? You water your lawn and then it disappears within a couple hours. And it's the same thing, but on a larger scale.
Experts say higher temperatures have led to both occurring this year, resulting in the current drought being so severe and so widespread. They caution it might be a sign of similar droughts to come.
What we can say is that we expect that these temperature-driven trends are going to cause droughts to, in general, become larger.
Right now, the drought is very large and very dry. Snowpack levels in California have dropped to 4% of normal this year, and many of the West's largest reservoirs have sunk below half of their capacities. The effects are most acutely felt by farms in nearby communities, where over 90% of the water goes in many western states. California accounts for a quarter of all food grown in the U.S., including 40% of fruits, nuts, and other table foods. That's because they can thrive in the region's semi-arid climate. The water is put to good use, says Doug Parker, the director of the California Institute for Water Resources.
So the dry season is sort of a curse because we don't have water during that season. But then again, it's a blessing because it's the only way we could actually grow some of those kinds of crops.
Jamie Trainum and her husband manage over 1,200 acres of farmland in Colusa County.
My husband and I have been farming for 27 years. We farm about 1,100 acres of rice, right around 200 acres of walnuts, 60 acres of row crop, and then we run 250 head of mother cows. We ended up having to fallow right around 500 acres of rice. We didn't have much choice. There's nothing. It's just dirt and some, dry weeds, basically. If there's not water for it, you can't grow it.
Most of Trainum's water originates 120 miles away in Shasta Lake and makes its way to her farm via a series of canals and pipelines. But the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, which manages much of this infrastructure and provides 1/5 of Western farmers with irrigation water, has cut the water allocations for many to zero this year.
When there's less water, you spend 10 times more of your own time dealing with paperwork, calculations, and managing what little water you have. It's very, very stressful and nerve-wracking because it's like putting a puzzle together when you don't even know what all the pieces are.
During the 2014-2015 drought, total farm-related losses in California totaled $5 billion, and 20,000 farmhands lost their jobs.
Imagine if you have to basically cut back 20% of your acreage, that's like taking a 20% pay cut to somebody who works in a regular job, right? So it is painful for those farmers.
Experts say the region's agricultural sector is resilient, and it's too early to tell what effects this drought will have on food supplies and prices. With limited options, Trainum has turned to pumping groundwater to make ends meet.
Right now, in the rice that we do have, We really don't have any other source of water but our well water. If you don't have a well and you're relying on surface water, years like this prove the point that you better rethink what you're planting or you better have a backup plan.
But groundwater isn't as easily replenished as surface water, and there are concerns that California farms run the risk of overdrawing, causing wells to run dry.
We don't have a good system where we regulate that groundwater. And so we tend to have a system where we draw more and we put back less. And as anybody knows, you can't continually take money out of your bank account if you never put something back in.
Nearby rural communities also rely on this groundwater for their homes. During the last drought, hundreds of California households, many in the Central Valley, reported water shortages. There are other consequences as well. Overpumping has been linked to increased levels of arsenic in parts of the Central Valley's groundwater. It also can cause changes in land subsidence, meaning the ground can sink, potentially damaging roads, homes, and bridges.
I'm concerned about the use of the well water, just like everybody is. Nobody wants their well to go dry. Nobody wants subsidence. We suffer and feel it first, but that doesn't make it any less of a struggle to somebody living in a city where their well goes dry and they have no drinking water.
During the last drought, California passed laws to better manage groundwater usage.
We're in the early parts of figuring out how to do that management of it. We really don't have all those mechanisms in place yet. So I expect us to overuse groundwater by quite a bit during this drought.
Experts expect the drought will continue to worsen into the summer and early fall as temperatures rise even more, which could cause a tighter squeeze on resources and tougher decisions to be made about how the West gets its water.